that building. Right? Interfaces. This is a very complex site. Somebody once described it to me as spaghetti and meatballs. The meatballs are the venues. You can put a fence around the venues generally. You can build it up, lovely, complete. In between that sits all the spaghetti. So what we've done is we put new roads in. We've put a whole new gas network in, a whole new power network in. Originally across the site there were high voltage cables going running across the site. The first thing we did was build a tunnel, stuck all those cables underground. We've put new potable and non-potable water systems in, district heating, yeah, and these all are being done throughout the whole fabric of what's called the common areas of the site. So what happens is that your guy who's digging your tunnel to put your BT cables in, your trough for your BT cables, wants to get in and do it, and actually the guy who's putting the gas pipe in there is doing something at the same time, so he can't do it. You've promised he can have that bit of site, but actually he can't. We started off, I think, splitting the site into what we called LA areas, and I think there were 12 originally, and I think there are now something like 200, because we've had to continually divide the project up into smaller and smaller bits and say to the contractor, we promised, yes, you can have a kilometre to go and dig your nice cable, your nice cable trough and stick your cable in, and that's a really efficient way of doing it. Instead we said, actually, can you just do that 20-metre bit at the minute and you come out and do the rest, well, maybe in a year's time. Hugely complicated. Spatial integration. Everybody wanted to work in the same place. Design integration. Yeah, you'll have a gas pipe, electrical pipe, business management, a building management system, and that has to connect up to a bit of the common area that then will connect up to another venue. Well, are we all designing to exactly the same thing? We spent £500 million on this project in getting the levels right, cleaning all the soil, making sure that it was called the enabling works, that the site was in good condition. Topographically, the levels changed. We went through 13 major changes of topography on the site. The last one I think was 13B or something. What does that mean? What that means is we went out to contract on topo 6, and when they actually got to do it, we were on topo 13. So he came along and thought he was going to be doing something down there. In actual fact, he was doing something up there. Yeah? And that happened all the time. So how do you actually make sure that you get those areas right? Big problem. So we tried to, as much as possible, to minimize those interfaces and to understand and manage them. Procure larger packages. If you give somebody a lot of works to do, he manages the interfaces much better. This is the Aquatic Center. You can see these are the temporary stands that are going up, and up above you can see how constrained that site is. The bit of yellow at the back is the temporary stand that's going on, and that we had to wait. We had a critical date last year, talk about integration. The road ran around there. This is the road, we have a loop road that runs right around the site. That road couldn't move until we completed a bit of gas piping somewhere, and that means that temporary stand couldn't go up until we'd moved that road. Well, the gas was late, a long way late, and in the end, we had to find a different solution so we could move the road, keep the site going, put the temporary stands up. Yeah, that sort of thing goes on daily. Industrial relations. A lot of you will recognise Peter Sellers, a guy called Fred Coke from an old movie. Some people might be old enough to understand that. As I said, key for us, today we have 6,500 employees on site and 5,000 on the village. The 3 major unions represented. The Olympic Park is very high profile, always seen as a target. If they want to do a demonstration, if they want to get on the news, they're not going to go somewhere up in Liverpool, they're going to come down here to the Olympic Park and demonstrate. And we have had some, but no real disputes. What do? We agreed with the unions some key principles of employment up front. All labour directly employed and local where possible. Yeah, i.e. nobody works on as self-employed, they're all directly employed by some company. What else do? We agreed that we would set the pay rates across the site to the working rule agreements. We had allowed union representation on site. We had high standards of welfare trained employee facilities. We've got our own surgery on site. You can go and if you've got something wrong with your ear, as I did the other week, you can go and see a doctor on site. There are lots of cafes, lots of messing facilities on site. We have active and regular discussions with all the key unions. And the key thing we did along the way was we enforced it. If we found people on site who were not directly employed, they had the choice to become directly employed or leave. And that was really important. And we built up a high level of trust with the union. They still give us some problems, but nothing fantastic. This once again is the velodrome. As I say, security is a key consideration. What do we mean by security? Well, perimeter fencing, CCTV, man guarding. Practically all the man guards are ex-Gurkhas on the site, and they stand around the fence all day, and they're really good Gurkhas. They're very good at standing still on one spot for about 12 hours. They're very good at killing people as well, although we don't ask them to do the latter. But changes in what we're being asked to do, things like building resilience, which we actually applied for funders contingency for. What do we mean by that? Well, if a bomb goes off, what you don't want is all bits of glass flying about everywhere. So you laminate the glass, you strengthen it, you put straps on bits of the building to stop it becoming projectiles. Hostile vehicle mitigation. You know, we have a big program at the minute that actually will stop big vehicles, people turning up with a bomb and doing something nasty because they physically can't get through. What do we do with mitigation? Close relationships with the security community, developed and identified as many as possible as the measures that are required, and we transferred that risk to the funders, said you'll have to deal with it. Cut and roll. Delay the completion of the athletes' village. As I said, 16,000 bed spaces approximately we're providing during games for the athletes, and in Legacy that will be 2,500 flats. After the games, at the minute, a 2-bedroom flat becomes a 4-bedroom accommodation at the minute. After the games, we take a couple of the bedrooms out, we put a kitchen back in, because there are no kitchens in there, and we take all the messing facilities out as well. 11 plots, 5 construction management, and 6 were tier 1s. You all know what I mean by construction management? You have somebody like Bovis who actually manages all the different elements. He'll manage the foundation, the structure, all the different bits, whereas tier 1, you employ Ardmore, and they'll just build the whole thing. So you transfer risk in a different way. It's a huge number of flats. Never been commissioned in one go. Block 15, which is the first, was complete in January, commissioned successfully, off we go. We had a few supply chain risks along the way. The bathroom pod manufacturer went bust, and one of the cladding contractors went bust also. Yeah, and we dealt with that in terms of our supply chain work. One of the things we did do, these are done under JCT contracts. NEC is very good at managing risk as you go along. You have to deal with things as they occur. If you don't, they time out. So the constructor has to tell you when something's going wrong. He's got 14 days to do it. If he doesn't, and he comes back later and says, oh, by the way, 2 years ago this happened, can I have some extra money, please? You say, sorry, we can't. Under JCT, of course you can. You deal with everything at the back end when you try and do the final account, which takes forever. What we did is actually we bought off that risk halfway through. We said, right, let's sit down. We need to accelerate a bit here. We'll negotiate out all the stuff that you've got today. We'll start with a clean sheet of paper and off we go. Yeah, and it's proved very successful. Of course, health and safety. Yeah, there are some big risks on here. Working at height, hot working, lots of heavy machinery, tunnelling underground works. When you went out on site in the early stages, or if you looked from Canary Wharf, all you could see is yellow lights. All you could see was the flashes indicating there was some vehicle moving. You know, incredibly complex and incredibly dangerous. We had a high focus on safety culture, safe start, toolbox talks. Everybody was responsible, and we followed through. Similar with the supply chain. We didn't just talk a good story. We actually stopped work. We stopped a contractor working for 2 months because of his safety procedures. We got everybody off site, and we retrained them when we got them back on site. And it cost us, and it cost everybody, a bit of money and a lot of time. But to date, we have not killed anybody. And if we continue, touch as much wood as you can, it will be the first Olympics ever never to have killed somebody in its construction, which is a real success. Well, perhaps we'll pick the questions up later on. That's a picture of the track going down on the velodrome. There's 2 guys in the world who can do that. One's an Australian guy called Ron Webb, and you can just see, for all the high tech, that's what it comes down to. People with a hammer and a nail and a bit of wood. Okay, sorry, I've taken a bit too long, but there you go. Thank you.